Hello students, this is PTG ma'am, and today's video will be on your upcoming board practicals. Mainly I will be focusing on business studies and entrepreneurship. Though I know that in some of the schools these two exams have already been conducted, but there are still many schools in Kolkata as well as throughout India where entrepreneurship exam is still pending. I'm talking about the practical part. And even in some schools, maybe BST hasn't yet been finished. But mostly, as far as I know, that many of the schools, they are yet to, they haven't yet finished with their entrepreneurship practicals. So there are a few questions which I often find students asking us or being a little confused about. So this particular video will be for those students who are in class 12, who will be giving their boards exam this year, and who have entrepreneurship and business studies, and their practicals are not over yet. So if you fall into that category, keep watching the video. So let me first tell you about the marks division. Your term 2 for your practicals, you have 15 marks for entrepreneurship and 10 marks for business studies. So let me first concentrate on entrepreneurship. So if we are talking about the term 2, the maximum marks that a student can get is 15. Now if I come into the divisions of it, it is 5, 5, 5. 5 on numerical, 5 on the file that you have made, and 5 on Viva. This is what normally the schools are following. Okay, now let me come to the numerical part. So you shouldn't be surprised at this stage that regarding this numericals, because I'm sure you know it from the very beginning that when we are talking about entrepreneurship practical, there is always a numerical element to it. Okay, and there is no confusion about it. The board hasn't deleted the numerical part. So 5 marks goes for your the numericals. Now what can you expect, or what kind of questions can you expect for your numericals? Usually the 5 marks will also be divided into 2 sections, 2 marks and 3 marks. That is what normally most of the schools will be doing. So you will be getting 2 numericals, and in some of the schools you might even get a single sum carrying 5 marks. Okay, so you can understand that if it is a single sum carrying 5 marks, then there will be a bit more of workings there, and if it is 2 sums, that is 2 marks and 3 marks, then they will be pretty small. Okay, now what are the common topics that you can have for your numericals? EOQ being the most common. Okay, where the simple EOQ is where everything is given to you. You know the P, you know D, you know C. You just put it into the formula and you get your EOQ. If it is a bit complicated, then you know your P, you know your D, but the C is not directly given to you. It is given as a percentage of the inventory cost, and you have to find it out and then put it and get the value of EOQ. So these are the 2 variations that you can have. Okay, the first one is the easiest one, which can just come for 2 marks. The second one, depending upon the complications or the calculations, can come for 3 marks also, can come for 5 marks also. It depends. Other than EOQ, what else? You can definitely have questions on ROI and ROE. Now for numericals, most of the schools are keeping very simple ROI and ROE, where you don't have to actually calculate sales and subtract cost of cost of goods sold, and you don't have to calculate the interest or the tax or whatever. So it's not that complicated. Usually everything is given to you, like maybe PBIT will be given to you, PAT will be given to you, total capital will be there, and the equity and the borrowed part will also be given, or maybe they might be expressed as a percentage. And from there you just have to use the formula for ROI and ROE and you get the answer. Okay, so if it's just ROI or ROE, then it can come for 2 marks. If you have to find both ROI and ROE, then it can come for 3 marks as well as 5 marks, again depending upon the workings and the calculations that are there in the sum. Apart from this, you can also expect sums on net and gross working capital, which is pretty easy. Assets will be given to you, current assets will be given to you, current liabilities will be also given to you. You just have to segregate those 2. You have to get the total of your current assets, get your gross working capital, and subtract the current liabilities from it so as to get your net working capital. So these are the 3 different types of topics or numericals that you can expect. Most probably you will not have BEP, because BEP was dealt in term 1 already. And unit cost, unit price, gross margin, that sum also you shouldn't be expecting here, but just have a talk with your teachers as well. They can guide you better. But as far as we know, and whatever we have seen, BEP and unit cost, unit price and gross margin, that those 2 sums should not be there because they have already been taken care of in term 1. But even if it's coming, no issues, it's quite an easy part and it's scoring also. Now I will be highlighting the areas where I have seen students losing out marks as far as numericals are concerned. So these are the points that I think you should take care of if you don't want to lose out any marks from your numerical section. And trust me, it is very easy to score a 5 on 5. And you can do it by yourself without depending on your friends or your teacher to help you out. Okay, I'm sure this much amount of preparation you must be having at this point of time. So just make sure that when you are doing your numericals, you are not forgetting to write the formulas. Okay, so if it is EOQ, then please write the formula. Okay, root over 2 PD by C, and mention what is P, what is D, what is C. Okay, and put the value there. And at the end, when you're getting your EOQ, mention the units there. So if your sum is just stating like, annual usage is suppose 500 units, then you mention EOQ as units. But suppose your EOQ in the sum, the annual usage was mentioned as 500 shirts, then your EOQ will be whatever answer you have got, that number of shirts. If it is pens, then that number of pens. So whatever is mentioned in the sum, accordingly you give the answer, and if nothing is mentioned, then put the word units after you have found out the answer. So this is for EOQ, and show the calculations also. Even if you feel that you can just mentally work out the sum, which is very good, but don't do it that way. You show the workings and the calculations along with the sum, okay, so that you don't lose out any marks there. Now coming to ROI, ROE, one major mistake the students make is they forget to put the percentage sign, or they forget to put the 100. You remember the formula. If you're writing PBIT divided by capital employed into 100, if you're writing PAT divided by equity into 100, so that into 100 part, please do not miss out, and your answer for ROI, ROE should be in percentage. And just be careful, just have these things in mind, that different sums might express different things in different way, but ultimately they would mean the same. Like they might write total investment, they might write total capital, they might also write capital employed, but it will mean all the same in case of ROI. Okay, and instead of PBIT, it can be also given as EBIT, earnings before interest and tax, instead of profit before interest and tax. The same way, for your ROE also, express it in percentage, write the formula properly, and instead of PAT, it can always be EAT. So you should be having idea about these synonyms as far as your numericals are concerned, so that you don't get confused. Coming to net and gross working capital, show the calculations. If you're writing total of current assets, then please show what are the current assets you're taking. So you mention total of current assets equals to, suppose you're writing cash plus debtors plus inventory plus short-term investment plus BR, something like this, and in the next line you're putting the values. Okay, so that the examiner knows that you have not copied it, you know the sum. Same way for current liabilities also, when you're writing total of current liabilities, you show what is coming under total current liabilities, and you do the subtraction, that is from current asset you subtract it. And for your net working capital or gross working capital, express it in rupees. So these are a few things which you should keep in your mind, and I'm sure if you're keeping these things in mind, you will not lose out any marks. And keep your cool, and sometimes when you do it yourself, you get full marks rather than trying to see it from your friends, in which you miss out a number of things. So I think it will be a better idea to depend on yourself rather than your friends or your teacher. I'm sure you can do that. All the best. And yes, watch the next part also, because this was on numericals. In the next part, I will be dealing with the project file. What are the things that we as examiners would look for in the project file? And in the part after that, the third part, I will be talking about the Viva. Okay, so have a look at those.